Oh, yeah, that's right. We're live again, baby. Welcome into a live edition of Locked On 76ers. Some breaking news could break at any moment. We'll examine where the 76ers are at when it comes to their pursuit of Quentin Grimes, and Guerschon Yabusele allegedly buys a house in the Philadelphia area. We'll get into that conversation and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On 76ers. Marc Farzetta, Keith Pompey with you. Keith Pompey been covering your 76ers for damn near a decade and a half. Marc Farzetta been talking Philly sports with you for 20 years in the city of Philadelphia. And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Before I jump into the Quentin Grimes stuff, because there's some news surrounding him and the Sixers' pursuit of him, Keith, I just want to say Friday, they had their press conferences after we wrapped our show. You went down there, and I was feeling bad for you, Keith. I was feeling bad. Daryl Morey not on the dais to answer questions, Keith, and I know you had some piping hot topics to bring up to the 76ers president of basketball operations, but no, he was not on a microphone, Keith. How'd you rebound from that?
I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's in a way, it's what they've been doing the last couple of years. You know, typically what they would have, is they would have the press conference, and it would be the owner, it would be Josh Harris, it would be Daryl Morey, it would be Nick Nurse up there, and it also would be the players, right? But recently, the last couple of years, they haven't had them. So it's one of those things where you look at it where Daryl doesn't want to probably answer questions. Now, he did address the media the night of the draft, the first night. He did address them. But, I think probably, it would have been nice for him to, talk about the second round pick. But then also, I'm pretty sure they probably didn't want to do it because he knew that a lot of the questions would be, what about, free agency? Are you guys going to go after this one? Okay, what about Lonnie Walker, like a guy who they basically didn't pick up his option? Do you guys intend to pick up his option? So sometimes, so you don't have to give up too much information. What you do is you just don't show up. Or he was there, but you just don't get on top of the DIs.
Right.
Yes.
I had to be honest. Friday when we spoke before the press conferences, and you said you had a question for Daryl Morey, I was like, "Oh, he probably won't be there because." And then I thought, "Oh no, wait! They had a top 3 pick. They had a top 3 pick. He better be up there." And no, so that's the way that one unfortunately crumbled. All right, so let's jump into this. A number of options picked up. We'll get into Kelly Oubre and all that stuff, but the Quentin Grimes news: Sixers, they want him back. They want to have this essential guard load up now on the Sixers, which I think is a great thing, regardless of who it is. At least it shows that their mentality and their approach is in the right place now. What could you tell us about Quentin Grimes and his potential return to Philadelphia?
You know what? Here's the deal. I think, okay, put it this way. When Daryl Morey did speak, he came out and said we have 4 guards, right? And he talked about Maxey, McCain, VJ Edgecombe, and Quentin Grimes. He talked about the guard depth that they have. Now, the thing is, Quentin Grimes wants to get $25 million per season. That's a lot of money, right? He wants to get that. There are going to be a couple teams out there who have money available who would take him, right? A couple of them. But I honestly believe that he's going to be a 76er. Because Daryl keeps coming out and saying, like, if the media is finding out this guy wants $25 million per, don't you believe he told the Sixers that when they were talking to him, like right after the season? So when season concluded. So yeah, I believe that the 76ers are going to go all in. They already talked about it's going to be this luxury, like they're going to be okay with the second apron. They look at it like their championship window is now. Daryl Morey knows that he has to turn his team into a winner. With all that being said, I honestly believe that Quentin Grimes is going to get his money. If another team, because these are restricted, So what has to happen is another team has to offer him that money. If they offer him that money, I think that maybe the Sixers are going to match it. I mean, I do. Now maybe if he got 30 or something like that, then they might be like, no, Quentin Grimes, that's 25 mil is a lot of money for him. But at the same time, he did put up a pretty good resume while he was here.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I've made the point many times. 28 points, 30 points, those types of games that he had for the 76ers down the stretch when they're in full-blown tank mode, somebody's going to score. Hey, he took the initiative. He had the talent to do it. I'm not discrediting it. He did in the NBA. Any NBA game, it's a big deal. But as far as, like, all of a sudden him being a starting guard on your team, I still have some questions about that. But if you're telling me $25 million, Keith, they're looking at him as a guy that's going to be in their starting five, are they not?
Yeah, you would hope, right? Yeah,
I would hope, but they also just took a guard.
So.
They just also took a guard at third overall.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so. He's going to eight. Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, the thing is, but here's the deal. Like right now, when you talk to people, let's just say if he does come back. Now, I think that this might, because of how much money he's going to get and how it's going to tie up the cap space and all that other stuff, he'll probably be like the last person they sign, right? He'll probably be the last person they sign. But I think that when you talk to people, some people will say that they really love VJ Edgecombe. But at this particular time, as good as he is, they question if he can be a day one starter. It's up to him, right? It's up to him what he can do. But you would think that right now you would possibly pencil in Quentin Grimes as a starter.
Wow.
Right. And then see how that stuff works out. Also, Quentin is bigger, he's a better shooter, and he's probably not as good as a defender. He's not as good as a defender, but also you need somebody on the floor who's going to be a space setter, right, for the team. So I kind of feel like, with that being said, day one, I could see him starting. But also what that does is it takes pressure off of VJ. VJ can come in and settle in naturally. Everything could be more organic, as opposed to every other play we're looking at him to see what he does and what he doesn't do.
Yeah. So where does this leave Guerschon Yabusele? I know that a lot of people were looking at their social media over the weekend and they were seeing reports, rumors, if you will, Guerschon Yabusele buying a house in the area. And some people, maybe the Sixers are keeping him here. And just as they're loading up with the guard position, Andre Drummond, we'll talk about him more in a second, player option picked up. Obviously, they go out in there, they draft early in the second round. Janai Broome, he's now going to join the Sixers. And you're telling me, I know they already have a Dembona and possibly Guerschon Yabusele in the mix as well. What do you know about that, about potentially keeping Guerschon Yabusele in Philadelphia?
You know what? I know, and it's weird because I looked at that account too on his IG page, and I'm like, how valid is this? I'm looking through everything, and it looks like it actually is his stuff. But at the same time, it's kind of like, to me, I just think it's hard for him to give up that type of money. I mean, you look at Guerschon Yabusele, and we're talking about the free agencies, right? The free agent power forwards. I mean, right now he's regarded as the third best available free agent power forward. So does the third best available free agent power forward take $5 million? You know what I mean? When this could be your biggest payday. So with that being said, I kind of think that he's gone. I do. And like, here's the thing. Yes, it could be a new house for them, but is it one of those things like, is he renting the house? Did he buy the house?
Right.
What is it? Like, what is it?
Maybe he just really likes Philadelphia. Maybe just,
Yeah, does he
really
love it here? Like, hey, this is where we want to raise the kids. This is a pretty good investment. Again, but also sometimes when you see things like that, and you put it on your page, another question that came to my mind was, okay, is his agency told him to put that out there to let these other teams know, y'all got to give us the bag if you expect us to leave? You know what I
All
mean?
right.
So again, but that's just me being like, always thinking something's up. You know what I mean? Always thinking something's up. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Fair enough. All right. When we come back, I want to talk about a couple other guys that we got to talk about when it comes to player options. I've joked in the past, Keith. Kelly Oubre. I feel like I'm the president of the Kelly Oubre fan club, if there is such a thing. Also, Andre Drummond, what that means for the 76ers. And a little bit later in the show, I do want to get into the press conference takeaways because both Janai Broome and VJ Edgecombe said the thing that I really want to hear from rookies, no matter what the sport, no matter what. I want to hear this from them, and both of them said it. And I think a number of times during their 20, 30-minute press conference, joint press conference on Friday. So we'll get into that and more a little bit later in the show. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Now it's time to tell you about FanDuel. You guys taking advantage of what FanDuel has to offer? Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're a big fan of baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or even high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to make every game that much more exciting. Little action makes the game that much more exciting. If you're ready to follow that action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling for yourself and make a little bit of cash when it comes to FanDuel? You could get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach this summer. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, maybe on Ranger Suarez, for instance, FanDuel makes it that much more fun to be part of the action. And how about this offer? If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. Bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app to do this today, or the FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, new to FanDuel, new customers can get bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Open the app, FanDuel app, or visit FanDuel.com today to get started. We talked about the options last week, Keith. We looked at Andre Drummond. We looked at Kelly Oubre. 2 for 2 in that regard. Then we also looked at the possibility of retaining Eric Gordon. When you're looking at this 76ers roster right now with Kelly Oubre back on it, opting in, how do you think he works his way into the mix, especially when you're talking about the 76ers guard load up, Keith?
You know, I think he works his way into the mix well. I think that we can see Kelly Oubre sliding to the 3, right? He played that position last year from time to time. You know, the thing I like about Kelly Oubre is that he's the type of guy that he doesn't really need plays ran for him. He doesn't get many ran for him, right? But at the same time, you know, he was a guy that excelled a little bit at that dunker spot. So let's just say if you say, okay, PG, I want you to play like the power forward or whatever you do or whatever on, you know, Kelly Oubre could be down at that dunker spot. He crashes the board. He does a lot of things. And I think that one thing we learned about him was 2 seasons ago is that he knows how to play well off of Embiid and Maxey. If that's the 2-man game, he knows how to play well. And then let's just say Quentin Grimes, assuming that Quentin Grimes is coming. You know, Quentin Grimes has the ability to make shots, so that's going to give you spacing, right? Paul George does what he does. He's going to probably handle the ball some. Maxey is going to be maneuvering, doing what he does, get all over the floor, and then B's going to, be the focal point if he's healthy, right? So when you look at it, you know, I feel like Kelly Oubre is the guy, the best guy to be in that 5th spot, so to speak. And then what it also does is it kind of makes your bench better. You know, you have McCain, Justin Edwards, VJ Edgecombe for right now. All these guys coming off the bench, and they're providing different things for you because, you know, I like Kelly. Kelly's 6'8". Doesn't look like he's 6'8", but because he's real athletic, but he's 6'8". So I think that you want him and Grimes possibly as 2 guys who can defend and are tall. Grimes is 6'5", but they're bigger than McCain and bigger than VJ Edgecombe. I think that he fits in well with the Sixers.
Yeah, I for that versatility you just laid out there, and also the guy's got no fear, absolutely no fear, and I also think he's got a great instinct. Kelly Oubre got a great instinct when some guys around him might be a little tired, maybe logged some, maybe one too many minutes at a certain point, hit a lull offensively, can't score a bucket. He seems to be the guy to be a spark plug, and I know a lot of people talk about spark plugs. You got to be like 6'3" or under. But Kelly Oubre able to be that spark plug, either coming off the bench or in the starting five when everyone's lagging behind. He seems to be that guy. And when you look at the box score after the game, one of the things I always like to say about him is he might have 8 points, 12 points, whatever in the box score. But those 8 or 12 points, that they were scored during that lull in the offense where he starts to not take over, but be that guy to be the Energizer bunny again to get everybody going. And I love that about his game, that instinct to kind of kick it into that next gear when he's noticing everybody else is hitting a little bit of a wall in that game. So I love that he's back. And then overall, the guy can shoot. He's more than a willing defender, obviously. And the versatility to his game overall, I like with Kelly Oubre. When it comes to Andre Drummond, I mean, this was just kind of a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. When you have Joel Embiid as a center, I mean, we talked about loading up at the guard spot. You got to load up at the center spot or at least big man spot. So they go early in the second round. They bring in Broome. They have Andre Drummond opt in. And Edgecombe and Broome also looks like a guy who's going to get some pretty good backup minutes for the Sixers as well. This as obvious a move that needed to be made when it comes to Andre Drummond. And for what, $5 million, $5.5 million?
Yeah, I mean, I think Drummond would have been foolish, just like Kelly Oubre would have been foolish if they said they opting out. Like,
right.
I mean, because right now, there's not a lot of money to go out there. And then Drummond coming off of a season where he missed 22 games, at least 22 games because of injuries, and I know he's a great rebounder, a two-time All-Star, but at the same time, it's like, bruh, you're going to give up this money and you might get the veteran minimum somewhere. If you're lucky, you may be able to make the $5 million elsewhere if you're lucky, or you may try to get a team for more, but most likely you're going to get a veteran minimum deal. So I felt like this was one of those decisions that the kids say, you got to do it, right? So yeah. And the same thing with Kelly, like, Kelly, you got to make those type of decisions. But again, here's the deal. Now they have a loaded center position again, because although I do like Broome as far as like playing both positions, his natural position is that of the center. But he's flexible, he's mobile. But the thing about Drummond is we don't know about Joel Embiid's health. He's always going to miss games. Even though he's going to come back healthy, we'll probably know he's not going to play on back-to-back.
Yeah,
load management. So you need a center, extra center. Also, Drummond has been kind of vital in regards to helping players develop. Look at Edgecombe and Broome. When he was down in the G League, Drummond would go down there and be like, tell him what to do. He would always help him at practice, give him instructions at games. I expect him to provide that same leadership, for Broome. So, yeah, I like him. And then let's face it, he was per 36 minutes, he was one of the league's top rebounders. So,
yeah, very efficient.
He can still be impactful. Now, again, he's not Embiid. He doesn't do some of the things that wow you that Edgecombe and Broome does. But what he does do is he grabs rebounds, and that's a weakness this team has.
All right. Who wins in a foot race? 22-year-old Andre Drummond or 22-year-old Janai Broome?
I think Drummond right now might get him. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, no offense, but Drummond is a good athlete, man. Like, people look at him because he's so big. Yeah, he's a good athlete. Like,
lumbering comes to mind.
Do you know? Okay, we talk about 22. Do you know he plays small? Big as he is, he was a small forward in high school. Like, they let him do whatever.
I did not know that.
Like, huh? When he told me that, I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, man."
He was a wing.
Yeah, but it's crazy though. Like George Niang was a wing too, right? In high school.
Oh my God,
He
yeah.
was like, who was it? Paul George. I asked him, what did you do? He said, I played all 5 positions. And he wasn't being an idiot about it. He was like, the coach just let me do whatever. So if you look at Drummond when he was young, big dude, they had him playing like in the perimeter. And I'm like, okay. UConn was smart, like get your butt on the block.
All right, fair enough. I'm a little surprised by that, but I'll take it. When we come back, there's some big news I just saw you share, Keith Pompey. I want to make sure we hit this because this is pretty historical, actually. I want to make sure we get that. It's a quick break. Back after this. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Am I seeing this right? We're going to get to the press conference takeaways in a second, but WNBA, Keith, coming to Philadelphia?
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? I mean,
that is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
it was embarrassing that we hadn't had one in Philly yet, to be honest with you.
I know. Remember they had that old league, the first women's league that they had? I believe they had a team. I wasn't living in Philadelphia at that time. I'm from here, but I moved down south for like a decade. And I remember, a decade and a half because of college and all that away from here. But I remember that they had a WNBA, not WNBA, but whatever that league was. I think that's huge, man. I really do. And the great part about it is that, you got this new arena coming up in several years, but it's weird. I feel like you arrive once you get a WNBA team. Now, let's face it, for a while, and this is not a knock, but I feel like there were certain teams, ownerships, who were maybe on the fence about bringing one there just because they felt like the league was losing money. So like if you didn't have own your own facility or this and that, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to, lose money. However, over the last couple of years with Caitlin Clark and the other young ladies, like this league is exploding. You got think about when Caitlin Clark comes to town, right? How many people are going to be there? And not only that, there's a lot of up and coming great players. Like in a couple of years, like Juju is going to be in the league. There's a lot of things. So I think that this is huge for Philadelphia. Is expected of Philadelphia, being one of the great sports towns. And like you say, to say that they didn't have one in the past, I understand why financially, but at the same time, moving forward, I think this is good for the Sixers, Josh Harris, and his portfolio of teams he owns. But this is great.
Yes, it will be owned by Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, which inaugural season 2030. So there you go. Finally, we're getting an NBA team, a WNBA team in Philadelphia. That is great news. I'm legit excited about that. As far as the press conferences for the NBA, for the rookies coming into the 76ers, obviously you had VJ Edgecombe and you also had Janai Broome address the media on Friday. I know you wanted to ask Daryl Morey a couple more questions. He did not take to the microphone. But I teased this earlier. The phrase that I want to hear from rookies is hate to lose. I hate to lose. Now, look, it's what are they going to say kind of thing? Well, they didn't need to say it as many times as they did say it. And I think both said it at least twice during their introductory press conferences as 76ers. But VJ Edgecombe and Janai Broome both really they never even talked about how they like to win. They just talked about how they hate to lose. And I think any Philadelphia sports fan can get behind that guy because generally speaking, we want our athletes in the city of Philadelphia. We both grew up here. We want our athletes to absolutely despise losing. If you win, good, you did your job. But if you lose, I want you just having that bad taste in your mouth until you're able to get it out with a fine victory. And that's the impression I got. And that led me to go down this path. Of all the things you could say about Ace Bailey and how good a basketball player I think he's going to be, I think one of the Sixers' big tasks of this offseason, and you can tell me if you got the same vibe, it's all about culture. And they want to inject hating to lose culture into that locker room. Even though I know they tanked at the end of last year, and even though this is the team that went through the process didn't pan out. the way the plan wanted to pan out. So right now, they're trying to look at the culture of this locker room and say, inject as many guys into this locker room as you can that just despise losing and really want to win. And I think that has started with Tyrese Maxey. I think that has taken to the next level with VJ Edgecombe. And I think you draft a guy, albeit in the second round, you're talking about a guy that started at Morehead State and now is an NBA basketball player in Janai Broome. That, to me, is making sure Jared McCain as well. How dare I forget that? From a Duke culture, you inject that into the locker room as well. I think they're making a conscious effort to try to turn the page into something different when it comes to what goes on between the walls of the practice facility and the new arena in South Philadelphia. So I think that's going to be
the bank arena. Just call it the bank arena.
The bank arena, exactly.
Yeah, whatever. Bank name arena. Hey, yeah, you're 100%. And the thing is, not only that, I'll get into the hating the losing part in a second, but they're all great people. Like they are. Jared McCain is a great guy. Seriously, the type of dude that, he comes in, he'll hold conversations. He speaks about everything. It's not just about basketball. He just seems like a guy who wakes up and he's just happy. The sun is shining. I'm happy to be here. VJ Edgecombe, what can you can't say anything bad about this kid. Is if you say something bad about him, and then it's kind of sort of okay, what are you doing wrong? Right. To a point where we talk about a guy, he's such a great guy, whatever, that, people are happy that he's here because he'll have Eric Gordon, another great guy who can nurture him, be a mentor to him if he comes back. But the thing about it is him and Broome got that dog in them. Great guy. Mm-hmm. But when they get on that court, they have dog in them. It's VJ is out there after the day he was drafted. He was in New York doing workouts with people playing. He was talking smack to people then, yo, come get this work. You can't guard me, things like that. And you hear the stories about Broome not backing down for anyone. But to me is when you talk about sports, everyone loves to win. Most people want to be a part of a winning team, winning culture, but the great ones hate to lose. I mean, it's a difference. You look at Hannah Hidalgo, right? The young lady from Paul VI High School in South Jersey, who's All-American at Notre Dame. That was her biggest thing. She has brothers. When they used to be on the front playing basketball, she would hate to lose. She would get pissed off, upset, and would do everything, would take it to another level. And that defines her greatness, right? So to me, whenever I hear that, and I get it, I love being a winner, Nah, but when you tell me you hate to lose, I like that. I love that. Put it that way. I love that.
Yeah, same thing, man. That was the number one thing that jumped out at me. Was not, hey, yeah, winning's so great. I just like to win, blah, blah. No, it's, hey, I hate to lose. That was the statement. And Edgecombe even talked about it in the regard that he was asked about his defense. Why do you take such pride in your defense? He's like, well, if you score more points than the other team, then they lose and I win. And I like that. That was his philosophy. And it's okay, can you just go ahead and teach the vast majority of the NBA that? Thank you so much. Keith, also, just one thing about those big press conferences where everybody's on a microphone. Why is it so hard for people to find the person asking the question? This is off the beaten path, I know, but this is just a pet peeve of mine that people still say into the microphone, I'm over here. It's coming from the speakers. They got the darting eyes across the room the entire time.
Well, it's crazy because, I will say this. So what they had is the way the setup was, it was more or less introductory press conference, but it was more like a celebration, I would say. As soon as the guys walked in the arena, they were clapping this and that. So how they had it was they had the first two rows, and it was kind of tight, but they had the first two rows of parents and family members. Nice. And then right behind that is where they had the media members, and you were squished between employees and season ticket holders, that type of thing. So it was tough. Like, it got to a point where I had to stand up just so I can make eye contact with people.
Good man.
Because it was kind of tough. And then you had the photographers right next to you, other people. It was a big room, but it was a lot of people in there. So I can understand why on that particular day they're like, oh, okay, I see you. I can understand that day. Yeah, it was crazy. But it was more like a celebration than anything to me. You know, it wasn't like the typical, press conference where you go in there and you got the beat writers in the front, right? And that's it. This one was like, welcome to the Sixers. We're going to make this a part of what's going to be an amazing day for you two.
Copy that. I want to get a couple comments in here. Teacher Got Game says $25 million, a little too much for Grimes. Okay. 3 times says, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. If you bring back Grimes, that is going to severely stunt the growth of VJ. What do you think about that, Keith?
You know what? You can look at that 2 ways. I was thinking in the beginning, I was thinking that with VJ coming, it would kind of mess up Grimes more so in the other way. Because VJ it's a 3rd overall pick. He's going to get ample opportunities to show what he can do, right? But when we look at right now how the NBA is changing, you look at the Indiana Pacers and you also look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. These teams had multiple guards, like they had 4 guards, and they kept them in that rotation, and they all brought something different to the rotation, and they made it work. In the past, you would say that's not going to work, but we're talking about the 2 teams that made it to the NBA Finals had a plethora of guards, and it worked well for them. So I don't think it's going to stunt the growth. Now, there was also something about $25 million being too much for him. I think that the thing is where the Sixers said is they're coming out acting as if they want to keep the guy. I mean, they're saying that they made it publicly that they want to keep him. They also came out and said that they're not afraid of the second apron, right? With that being said, if somebody offers him 25 and if they don't match, and then people are going to look at the Sixers and say, well, what happened? You said you were going to do it. Now, what it's telling me, y'all, is that the Sixers know the time to win is now. They only have a couple of years to get this thing together, right? So since they only have a couple of years, it's like, yo, I'm sorry, we got to get it. We got to get it now. And then afterwards, we got to worry about it, because I doubt if a couple of years from now they're going to be paying all that tax and everything. Yeah. But with that being said, they got to win now. They realize that the East is wide open and they're going all in. And they know that Quentin Grimes, if somebody goes down, you can expand his role and he can get buckets. They also know that he can also space the floor for him. So to me, that's why they have to pay him.
Gotcha. Keith, a pleasure as always. I know we're going to be following the bouncing ball when it comes to free agency, essentially, and where Guerschon Yabusele could end up. And we'll also continue to follow the Quentin Grimes story. By the way, Xfinity Mobile Arena is the new name of the Wells Fargo.
Oh, so it's not a bank. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was blanking on it. Yeah, I was blanking on it. Yeah. But it's Xfinity Mobile Arena. That's what they got right now. Keith, always a pleasure. I know everyone can read you on Inquirer.com. Everyone can follow you on social media as well. We'll be following this as it continues. We appreciate you guys making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. As for your next listen, make sure you guys check out Locked On NBA. That's right, Locked On NBA on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Locked On. Hold on. Deal saying, don't go anywhere, Fars. You and Keith stay here. We'll
better not. Best. We're going to kidnap him. We're going to stand outside.
Awesome show, guys. Thank you very much. Very kind. Appreciate everybody in the chat as well for this live show. Back with you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Catch you guys tomorrow. Bye.